welcome to another episode of The Single Girl's Guide to Life, your weekly guide to single life living in your 20s, 30s and 40s. I'm Chantelle Dyson, a single life empowerment coach, helping women to make the most of their single life now and helping you to realise that a relationship doesn't define what you can and can't do and your worth in society, on earth, or anything like that at all, because you've got to be making the most of it now. And in this week's episode, I wanted to delve into something that I have been taking part of and haven't really been making the most of kind of selling as to exactly why it's something that I think is really valuable to do at all times in your life, but particularly so if you are single. Now, this goes back to my childhood, and I, on reflection, have realised that this is something that's really important to me and has given me the opportunity to meet so many fantastic people and to have friendships and connections with people that I never thought or would never have met otherwise. And this is the idea of taking part in group experiences. Now, for some people, the idea of that probably seems entirely scary, particularly so if you are leaning very heavily into the independence of your single life. One of the big things that I talk about a lot is the fact that when you're single, you can do what you want, when you want. You get to develop your sense of self and you get to find out who you are. And you can do and learn to do everything nearly on your own. However, for a long time, I have put myself in scenarios where I take part in activities that are organised by other people. Some are specifically group experiences, which I'll define a bit more in a bit, and some just happen to be events that therefore you have other people to do things with naturally as part of that event. And it turns out to me that I think it's not been spoken about enough as to how important this is. And it's not just in a travel sense. I think it's really important to understand that this isn't just for people that are interested in travelling. The idea of travel groups, whether that's joining a Facebook group and finding people or literally going through an organised system for, 18 to 30s or any other category of ages they have, it's the same principle as that, but it's different. You don't have to be required to travel or go abroad or go trekking to be able to achieve this. And the first real point at which I think I went for something that was completely brand new, didn't have any particular links to it. It's not like I went to a club or anything like that or a hobby group. It was attending all that way back when I just turned 17 it was, but I'd have applied when I was 16. So once I was in year 12, I would have applied, I guess, was NYT, National Youth Theatre's summer programmes that they did. And I haven't looked this up enough to know if they still do them, but if they do, they're wonderful things for people under 24, it was at the time, I believe. And it was courses in technical theatre, be it stage management, light and sound, costume, I feel like there was as well, or design in some way. That meant that for 2 weeks, we were in, as 16 to 24-year-olds, so a range of people, we were in university halls and we were learning the skills of theatre. So for those that haven't listened to the podcast before, my degree is in theatre. I used to work in the West End on sound as a sound dep most of the time, or a maternity cover sound number 4, which means I used to poke microphones through people's hair, change the packs between different characters, and have a good fun time doing that. It was a wonderful job, and the whole community is pretty wonderful as well. But they had these programmes, such as what National Youth Theatre ran, to help people get into it, to learn some of the skills, and we went backstage at stuff. And whilst I learned a lot doing that, and obviously followed it up at university, it wasn't necessarily just the course that made that special. The idea around it was that there was this wonderful group of, I really don't know how many of there were now that I think back, because I did 2 weeks working as well. They actually put on shows as the National Youth Theatre of people that had done it that year and previous years and were deemed to be, responsible enough under adult supervision to run these shows. And yeah, I don't know how many were on the course. I remember us all travelling from Denmark Hill over to somewhere North London way. And there was a number of us in that group. And I think about that group, particularly that group, because they're the ones that then came to my 18th birthday party. Bearing in mind some of these people were from Leeds, Manchester, Birmingham, and I don't know where else off the top of my head, But a year later, I mean, I was already speaking about it at the time because you've already learned how organised I am as a person. Those children, we were children, we're teenagers at the time. Those teenagers came down to Essex. How they coordinated themselves, I can't remember now. But they put that in their diary and they came along. And I actually went to university with a couple of them. We went to the same uni in the end. I had one of them stay at my house. Literally the last time I saw them, probably, if I didn't meet them in London once after my birthday, would have been my birthday. And then they stayed when they were doing some work in town for a couple of weeks. And it's this interesting element about having had a group experience for 2 weeks. And we were youngsters at the time. We burnt a pot of spaghetti in a pan because we just hadn't thought about the fact you might need to stir it. Like, it was a real learning experience. Prior to uni, for the majority of us, one of us dyed our hairs while we were there. I can see pictures of a mattress being in the hallway for some reason. I can't tell you why. It was pre-uni without, alcohol because we didn't have access to that. And there was that magic of it, and hence the title of this podcast episode, because I truly think that group experiences are magical. There is something that you can't relive it. We could get us all together for a reunion, and although my birthday was great, it still wasn't quite the same. But if you tried to do it now, it would be years later, 11, 12 years later, which feels mad that it's even as long as that. It wouldn't be the same because we've moved on. We're all in different bits and pieces. Some of us have pivoted out of theatre. Some of us are still in it. We still live as far apart as we always did. I do have some of those people still on social media. I've got a bit of a rule that I don't necessarily keep everybody I've met in my life on social media because from my experience, I actually find it really difficult to see all these lives moving on, but not really knowing those people. Different if I kept in touch with them in some way. But there's some exceptions I make to that, and these people, some of them have just managed to stay. But the magic of that time, and you could go, well, is it not because you're reminiscing and you're feeling it a little bit more? Yes and no. I haven't had one of those experiences quite for a few years. Pandemic, it made that sense of it difficult to do. We couldn't interact with people. The thing that I've done in between that I didn't really realise was a group experience, and it's not pitched as that, but it very much is, was a maths conference I used to attend. In my training year, I think there was a great discount for student places at the Association of Teachers of Maths conferences, and every now and then my face is like on the website, whether that's the front page or just somewhere of where I've been to these conferences. And that lasted 3 days and was sort of over Derby, Stratford-upon-Avon way, that kind of area. And I used to drive there on my own. I remember the first day not really knowing what a conference was going to be like and panicking that I was late, when in actual fact, it was a very casual start with lunch. And, if you missed it, you missed it. You'd have just sat at the back. But I didn't know that at the time. I was freaking out. And I remember walking in. I can't remember if my room was ready on time or not because I can't see me going to the hotel room first. But I remember walking in, getting my lunch, and then sitting down at a table on my own. But someone else approached me and joined me, and I suddenly realised that this was how this was going to work. That I would learn through the day, basically, that a lot of people had come from a lot of different places. And whilst they regularly returned, so they knew each other over time, and then some of them worked together on projects or even came from the same school areas, it was this community that came together every year. And again, I did return most years in teaching where I could. I even went with my HOD one year, and we connected with people sometimes really intentionally and purposefully, like we're trying to find out about mixed attainment. And other years, i.e. the years that I just went because it was interesting, I was just going to learn about maths and do it in a different way and have these other perspectives to what I was experiencing just at work and just on my training course and so on. And I didn't really realise that was happening. There was even another one where I did an A-level course in York that's just coming back to me as I talk about this. And I didn't necessarily find friends in the same way as I did with the theatre one. I found professional contacts with these ones, which was slightly different. More so from the longer conferences because there was that returning element. And I think it helped also with the theatre thing that university offered the chance for me to connect and reconnect with some of those people again from the NYT course. But it was this summer, which I've just finished up, that I got to relive that experience again. And it kind of was by accident. And this is partially linked to going to festivals on your own, except two different ways that I've done this. So the first one was attending Tomorrowland. For those that don't know, because I realise that I'm bringing in quite a niche topic to a group of people that have varied interests. Tomorrowland is one of your biggest dance festivals in Europe. Numbers-wise, it's equatable to Creamfields. The difference is that they put on 14 stages and you're spread out, and it's more artistic and magical than a UK festival like the Creamfields, Leeds and Reading, because that's pretty much pop a couple of stages up, put music on and done. Tomorrowland goes to this next level. It's almost Disney-esque in the presentation, and you aren't going to see a lot of scaffolding and Harris fencing because it's covered, a bit like Disney is. Like when they're doing up one of the buildings at Disney, they actually put like a painted version of that building up, right? It's very engineered and it's very clever in the way they do it, and you are entering a world of Tomorrowland and all that they encompass with their message. And I, back before the pandemic, because all of these events, or a lot of them are delayed, I'd signed up. I wanted to go to Tomorrowland. I had the deposit for the house in my account, and yes, it was a significant amount of that money, but it was the only way I could get myself to Tomorrowland, because despite having got off the tube and been prepared for the sale time, as lots of people do, with a festival that is international and popular in demand, standard tickets go well quickly. So when it came to it, and by the time my page had loaded and I saw that there wasn't really a lot going, the surprise package, of which I didn't really know how many people were on it or what it involved, all it said is that I would get pretty much nice accommodation, have a really nice comfort pass, which I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I've soon learned, and I'll share with you in a bit, and that there would be surprises along the way, and all transferred would be sorted out in Brussels. That was it. And I was like, well, I want to go. I want to be there. So, bam, here I am. Let's do it. And so there was excitement initially and joining Facebook groups, but obviously pandemic hit, and kept every now and then someone would post in the group about, oh, is it going to happen this year? In 2021, it didn't. Is it going to happen this year, 2022? Realistically, I didn't engage with that Facebook group other than joining the solo travellers to the surprise package group until that week or a week before, when I was stressing that I hadn't got my ticket and didn't really know where we were going or what we were doing. We didn't have our itinerary till quite late. But it turned out it was 111 people that came together for that package, and we were all in the same hotel initially in Brussels, and we did have some amazing surprises. It was welcome drinks and food on the first night. The second day, what did we do on the second day? Oh, we went to a town square, and then we did beer tasting. Then we did a walk. It was quite a long walk, but we were accompanied by what I can only describe as a disco granddad playing Tomorrowland type tunes, like heavy dance music. I mean, he was pretty epic. We walked all the way to another fantastic venue, beautifully stunning building it was, and had a private meal, all 100 of us plus the people sort of hosting, I guess you would say, down a really long table. I thought that was wonderful. And a magician came round at the time, and then following that, it was like a little mini party, which the first night welcome drinks had been as well. And then the third day was when a lot of the packages that had come together all came together in Antwerp. And we had pictures taken in places. We got our flags. You might have seen that on Instagram at the time. I was posting briefly, but I was so invested and involved in this world. And the fact that we'd spent 3 days together before we even made it to the festival meant that we had our little community. And it was wonderful, really, because our neighbours in the tents that we eventually had, we were sporadically near one another. Like next to me, I had one guy from America, then another guy from America. Then there was a gap of intense sense of like who we'd formed our little group with. And then one across would then be the Australian. But also down that way were other people, and behind and in front, there were basically a lot of us, because we'd all arrived at the same time and checked in together. So we were all getting our tents. That was how it worked in that area of Tomorrowland, and hence this whole fancy accommodation with like a swimming pool in the tent area. This is what I mean. It was insane. But it meant that because we also had surprises at the festival that were at certain times, we would, whether you got lost or went off and saw a different stage at a certain point, you would come back to these couple of points at the festival, as well as starting off your day together and generally ending it together. You would see these people again. And also, if you were just wandering around, obviously with X thousands amounts of people walking by, sometimes you then walked past the people that you've been spending 3 days with. And maybe you'd sit together and watch a bit of the act for a little bit. Maybe you just join their group and wander wherever they were because you weren't really fussed about who you were seeing. Sometimes I even specifically went to some of the comfort areas we had. So the comfort pass allowed us into a couple of sections that were restricted, basically. You could only get in with particular wristbands. They walked around with a bit of food every now and then, and you could buy bottles. I mean, there was also a bit where there was a swim pool and a hot tub section, and you could be given a swimsuit to put on. I mean, it was mad what actually happened, and I didn't really know. I just knew it was a great festival. I didn't realise to what degree that wonderfulness was. But sometimes I would go to those sections if I was like, well, I'm not really fussed who I see right now. And actually, it'd be cool to like see if anyone's here. So I would sometimes go there, and sometimes you'd find a little group were there, and you'd be like, hey, can I hang? Or they wouldn't. And so I'd sit, and then at a certain point, someone would walk past. But there were also other people I wanted to see. And it was just this fantastic time. And people were sad at the end of it, as you do. I think you get this with when you go on holiday sometimes even, and you found a group that you really get on with, or you really bond with the kind of entertainment team or what. And you get what's that kind of blues, the holiday blues, it's coming to an end. And at the same time, I said, the reason it's been good though is, bearing in mind we were all from a number of different countries. We're talking, I mentioned a few earlier, but obviously we had America, many of the states, Australia, Northern Ireland, Saudi Arabia, Germany. And like, they're the ones that I'm thinking of right this second. There were only 4 of the 111 from the UK, 2 Northern Ireland and 2 from England. Despite all of those different cultural backgrounds, we had people that were speaking Spanish more predominantly than English, because it was really hard for them to keep up in English. It worked because we got on for a week. And a week is about enough time to not really notice your differences. You're in the moment of what's going on with the festival and the experiences. And everyone's very hands-off with their expectations of other people. I was particularly unwell on the first night of the actual festival in the end. And I actually had to sit out and cut some of my days short because I just didn't want to push myself, particularly on the first night. Now, that would have been accepted, I'm sure, at any festival. But if you go with friends sometimes, they might have just thought you were trying to make an excuse. With something like this, people don't know you well enough to know if it is just an excuse. And quite honestly, they don't care. Because they're either there with some people came in pairs and some people came in their own. Everyone's pretty happy to just do what they want to do. No one gets offended if you don't go out and do the thing that they're all doing, because it's your festival and you've paid for it as much as them. If you don't want to sit there and watch the act, then you don't have to. You don't get to know personalities too well enough to be worried about if they wind you up, unless it's really obvious and they're really great from the off. But the whole festival, particularly with Tomorrowland, is about love, unity, coming together and acceptance. So you had that underlying tone that we all kind of knew was there as well. But it was magical. And it reminded me of the National Youth Theatre experience, because everyone is from even further away. There is little chance, in the nicest way possible, to the people that I spent time with and had so many conversations with, particularly about the differences between the UK and America, despite our similarities, as it were. The reality is when will I see those people again? It's not likely. I have them on social media now. I will see how I go with that, keeping up with their lives. But at a certain point, it'll just be the acceptance that that was what it was. It was 111 people on a Tomorrowland global journey adventure together. And it was magical. And not just because Tomorrowland is Tomorrowland, but because of the unique way we did all come together. I remember on the first night, I responded to people in the Facebook group. Literally, I got to the hotel. It was about 5:15, maybe. By the time I checked in, 5:30. I checked the group, and Claire, who had been organising us for quite a while, bless her soul, had written in the group, we're leaving to go to the welcome drinks about 5:45. If anyone wants to join us, you can. And it was Nick and Phil that had joined her down there. And then I'd seen it and went, I'll be there. I'll see you in a bit. You know, you can only be involved as much as you involve yourself. And down I went, and off we went. We walked because we thought we'd take our time, get there, make it easy for ourselves, be a bit leisurely. And we got there, we were a little bit early, not a problem. But once we were there, cocktails, because it was a welcome drink cocktail. We were sat down and we were chatting. And then I'd spotted some other people. People would have been arriving and sitting at their tables, and we didn't really know the situation at the time. But we figured that people were in a similar scenario to us, like either on their own or in pairs. So as another couple of guys walked past, didn't know who they were, I literally went, are you going to come and join us? It's about being open and welcoming to everyone. And they said, yeah, sure. And suddenly we're introduced to them. They were from Canada. And we actually formed a little group then. And that was really our core group within the 111. We kind of formed that group there and then, purely because it was the first people we'd met. And that didn't mean we didn't talk to other people throughout the whole time. It was just more like, oh, we kind of know the situation here, we're getting along. Sometimes we, reserve seats or think about those people when we were thinking, oh, like, where is everyone? Where's who? Because naturally you form little factions, and it's not a problem because 111, you can't be friends with all of them all the time. But that was kind of our crew, and we looked out for one another, checked in, and were supportive. We wouldn't have not supported the others because we were on 2 coaches together for a lot of the time too. But it's that encouraging manner of just saying hello to people. And then I relived that exact experience about 2 weeks later when I then was working at Festival as a steward. Now, this was new for me because I'm not traditionally a camper at a festival. I don't like it. I had a terrible experience when I was, I think I was about 17 or 18. And we were staying with a friend, but the rain came down on I think we only stayed one night, maybe 2, but on the night at which we would then leave the next day, the rain came down and our tent was flooded. It wasn't my tent though. I hadn't been involved in the putting up. It was just where we were staying. But me and my brother exited quite quickly. And from that point on, I've never really been fussed about camping. If I do, I tend to upgrade and pay for something that's already there. So it was a daunting experience to think, I'm going to spend 4 or 5 nights in a tent. And I don't mind camping on its own, but it's that idea of, is it going to be noisy? How's it going to be? So I had that. But also I was working, and it was going to be interesting to see what it was like to work a festival. Would I be feeling like I was being pulled away and wanted to be at the festival more? I actually really enjoyed that process of working. Maybe I was just all festivaled out from having done a week at Tomorrowland, and I've done a lot of events before now. Maybe my festival enjoyment time is dipping because I'm like, they're all very similar in the end. But it meant that I was busy for 8 hours of the day for 3 of the days. And then I would have, because of my shift pattern, I'd have the evenings off. It so worked out. So I actually got to enjoy quite a bit of the festival, the bit that I would want to have seen. Anyway, I wasn't fussed. Festival is a very family-friendly festival. I've previously spoken about how I think it's a great festival for you to go to on your own in general, because it's safe as. They've got lots of systems in place, I've now learned as well, to make sure that children don't go missing. They always have these at festivals, but it's very different vibe to some of your other kind of adult-only-esque festivals because of the culture in it. And this is very child-friendly. So I decided I wanted to work that one because it was a little bit of money. And for those that don't know, I quit my job last Christmas. So it was a way to earn money in the summer. As a teacher, you don't have too much opportunity to do that. What I didn't think about was the community that would develop as part of that festival and all the workers that came together. Now, at this opportunity in time, I will just bring up the community that we have online. Community is so important to feeling like you belong, and whether that's long term or if it's just for a little bit. Community is what makes us feel like we've got people to lean on, people to support us, and some people to just talk to at times. And the online community we have for single ladies is the thing that helps support this podcast. It keeps it regular, it keeps it going, and it brings us all together in a way where we're not man-hating. I really want to make it clear that it's not an ultra we hate men vibe. It really isn't. It's generally more about frustrations in dating, frustrations at the judgment of being single, and also celebrating the things that are going well. And people that I've known for maybe 6 months because they've followed on Instagram and shared and been to events, or they've attended or plan to attend some of the getaways. It is this idea that you can see them progressing because they're taking part in the book clubs. They're meeting the other people that are giving them new perspectives. So it's just a little thing. If you're enjoying this podcast or any of the other ones and you want a sense of online community, then please have a little think about supporting the podcast long term and getting a community vibe out of it. All the information to join our online community will be in the description of the podcast. But I will now come back to this little community that was developed at the festival. I just hadn't thought about it, and I hadn't thought about it for Tomorrowland either. But lots of people volunteered solo, and some had been returners from previous years, so you could see them saying hello to each other, literally from last year. They hadn't seen one another, but they were coming back again and they were going to pitch their tents together. But you then have the crowd that haven't been together and they're new this year, and you start to form a little group. And just by proximity of our tents, there were a group of, it was actually all girls really. I mean, we spoke to some of the boys as well. It just so happened that I was near a group of girls that were working on their own, all in different tents. And we formed this bond. And throughout, I spoke to lots of different people over that time, through the different shifts I worked, through sitting in the marquee that they had as like the staff marquee. It was, again, magical, and it had the same principles of Tomorrowland in that no one was fussed. I didn't go out loads. I wasn't up for partying. People were like, is everything okay? They checked in on me. But I was like, yeah, I'm just tired and I really want to take it easy. I was quite, at this point in the whole of summer, quite done with being away from home. For those that have followed, I have been away over July and August for literally 50% of the time. I have slept out of my bed 50% of the time because I've been away on holiday working, and that is a luxury to have. I can tell you, it's not actually as fun as it might seem. I realised quite early on that would be a challenge for me, and I was pretty done. I just wanted to be home in some cases. That didn't mean I didn't enjoy the community. I was just tired of not being in my lovely space that you can see now if you're watching on YouTube. It's definitely, I have a strong lean towards wanting my home comforts and routine. Routine I've missed and crave right now, but that's not the point of what we're talking about. The point of what we're talking about is when you have these little experiences that last 2, 3, 4, 7, 14 days, they can have the most profound impact on you in terms of that experience, of how magical it seems, and the small family that you create just for that period of time. And it doesn't have to go beyond that. There are intentions with some of those groups to meet up again, to go to festivals together, to have little reunions. It may or may not happen. And it's exciting if it does. And if it doesn't, you don't really hold on to it because it was chance meeting at something you were just at for fun anyway. But it is something that I believe is truly beneficial. I meet lots of people and the backgrounds of people at these different places. Tomorrowland, culturally different, extremely so. And then coming to Festival and the workers there, all different backgrounds, all different takes, because you've got all different ages there as well. It's fascinating to me because we can stay in our bubble. We can feel really safe with the people that are around us. They think the same way as us, and we don't know how to break free from that. Well, if you need to break free from it, you've got to find new people. People always say to me, oh, how do you find new people? And we have the bog standard ways, join hobby clubs, meetups, and so on. I think sometimes these things can have a bigger impact, or at least be a little bit more life-changing and magical, because you don't know who you're going to meet. They're not nearby. And you have to stay in the moment because you don't know if you're going to see them again. You've got the time you've got with them. There's very little chance I will see the Tomorrowland people, particularly the ones from abroad, again. We had to enjoy the moment we were there. Even though I was tired, we were all pretty tired for the detox day, which is the last day. We just wanted to stay in the hotel and use the facilities and detox there. But we were like, but we're here and we want to get through this last day and make sure we've done it all. And we did. But it is that encouragement that you get. And this is why part of what I do with the Single Girls Club and what we put on for that is the getaways. We have the New Year's Eve getaway, which is one of the most challenging times for us as singles, particularly when everyone starts talking about what they're doing. What you do for New Year's Eve. And as a single person, it's either nothing or family a lot of the time. So when you're single and the rest of your friendship group are out, the New Year's Eve getaway is one of those ones that we're going to have something to say that we're doing, and it's going to be fun and it's going to have lots going on. There's still time to relax and socialise, but it's very activity based. And that has a couple of spots left on it, but they are going. Especially now I feel like people are going to start clocking that we're in autumn and it's coming around. The other one that I've launched just recently is the Galentine's Getaway, which is just before Valentine's Day. Galentine's is technically on the 13th, and we'll be doing it on the 10th to the 12th of February, and that has just launched. Now, this one is still going to have a workshop. We've got the New Year, New You workshop at the New Year's Eve one, but then we've got the Being Single on Valentine's Day workshop at the Valentine's Day one. And we'll be enjoying that in the countryside near to Glastonbury. There's a hot tub, there's a sauna, and it's going to be, in both cases, these group experiences that aren't like anything else that you've done, because I don't know of any other single girl event that brings people together in quite that way. Other people might be trying, I don't know. Let me know if you know. But it's this idea that we all come with something in common. At National Youth Theatre, we were all interested in theatre. We were young people trying to break into theatre. At the Association of Teachers and Maths Conference, we were all teachers trying to make sure that maths teaching was exciting and relevant and research informed. At Tomorrowland, we were all very invested in the festival and attending a prestigious festival. And at Camp Festival, I don't know what we would say that the defining thing was, but we were there to work together, have fun, and be a team. And these getaways are all about being together, enjoying being single, and realising that there are more single people out there around us that are there to meet and to just get to know new people. Yes, we'll do some personal development work. Yes, we will have food and socialise. And in both cases, I hope we can get a chance to relax and have fun. And it's the magic of those. Each one will be unique. New Year's Eve will be different to Galentine's in its structure. But even then, if I continue a New Year's Eve one, that will always be unique to that year because of each group that appears will always be a little bit different. Yes, I'll be there, I'm sure, at all of them. But it's that idea that each one's going to be special because of the people that are there and the experience we all have together. So if you're looking for a way to expand your experiences, to make sure you don't have to do things on your own all the time, then find a group experience. We've got spaces on the New Year's Eve one, and the Galentine's Getaway's only just launched, so there's more spots on that, but they both have limited spaces because there's only a certain number of rooms, all in single beds, which is really hard to find, might I add. I have scoured the internet for some of these venues at times because so many of them are double beds. I won't make anyone share that doesn't know people. So that's the kind of thing I put together for that. You don't have to come along to those ones. Obviously, they're there and they serve a particular purpose. You might want to go and do a theatre one. You might want to go and do a festival. There is also going to be plenty of other things that you can find that do retreats, getaways, that you can work at that are very short term. And if it fits, go and try it. Go have fun. Go and have those experiences. I can't necessarily put into words exactly what it feels like when you're there because magical does kind of cover it. It's bittersweet at the end always when you're saying goodbye and you know deep down that you won't keep in touch with the majority of these people. This is how it's been and it will never be the same again. Even if you all return, even if all of you returned, it isn't the same because the first time's magical and you just don't know what to expect and you develop expectations over time. But that doesn't mean that you can't walk away with a great friend, that someone that you do keep talking to, or just some people that, you know, support you in your journey and where you are now. And they're that new people on your social media. Sometimes it is useful to have those people you don't talk to all the time, but you touch base with and you catch up with every now and then, and they're still on the same page as you, even though they're miles away from you. So I wanted to share my experience. I know I've spoken a lot about actually what happened because I think it's useful for you to know that I've actually been doing this for longer than I ever realised. And I didn't know how much of an impact it was having. It was when I did Tomorrowland, I was sat there going, oh God, I used to do this all the time and I used to love it. It's not exclusive to something that you do when you're single. I did the teacher conference ones. I was in a relationship the whole time for that. But it's important to note that you should do that and could do that, whether you're single or in a relationship. Go out there, meet new people, get new perspectives and have these little experiences. Things don't have to last forever to be worthwhile. And it's worth remembering that when you think about booking your group experience. But make it something you want to do. Don't worry too much. I know it's scary to think about, oh God, I've got to try and fit in. You don't. People are so welcoming because pretty much everyone's in the same boat. I haven't seen a negative experience because people are so welcoming, so open, and just want everyone wants each other to have a good time, and you're all looking out for each other. I was lent a mallet to hit my nails in for the tent, and I was given tablets whilst I was at Tomorrowland and not feeling well, but then I gave my bottle of water away, and I also helped someone find their phone. It's give and take. It's being part of a team and just having a good time. So I hope that gives you something to think about. Maybe you're going to put in an event to go and do, to think about doing next summer or any time in between. Start researching in case it's something you have to pay for, or find some little bits of work that you can book some time off for. If you are a teacher and you want to do something a little bit different, then try that out. You can join us on the New Year's Eve getaway or the Galentine's getaway. All the information will be in the description for you to book a call and get yourself a spot on one of those getaways. And if you can't make a getaway, come and join us at one of our monthly events in London, Essex, or in our bi-monthly events in Manchester. Until next time, everybody, keep celebrating single lives together.